Hey, everybody, and welcome to another Five Questions with the Paulist. I'm Mike Hayes, and today we are going to go out to sunny California. One of my all-time favorite people is out there. He's the vice president of Paulist Productions and a documentarian filmmaker. He is Father Tom Gibbons. Father Tom, congratulations, first of all, on being nominated for a Los Angeles Emmy Award for the documentary Hollywood Priest about the life and ministry of Father Bud Kaiser.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm still kind of I'm still kind of soaking it in. I'm kind of it was something I kind of had a little wish for in the back of my mind, but I wasn't sure if it was actually going to happen. And then when the nominations came out for the LA Regional Awards, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it." So,
That's great. And Father Bud was the founder of Paulist Productions, where you work today. So,
yep.
question one: what part of Father Bud's life inspires you the most?
I think what the thing that inspired me the most about Father Bud was his work with the poor and his work with Catholic Relief Services. When I was reading his autobiography, I was really taken with his, I mean, I thought it was great what he was able to do in media. And I think as I get older, I see media as important, but not necessarily the end all be all. Like sometimes I think when we're younger, there's like a tendency to think, oh my gosh, me, to be in media is the most important thing in the world. And but later on in his biography, he talked about going to famine-stricken parts of Africa in the 1980s and what an effect that really had on him. And I think it really kind of grounded his ministry and grounded what he was all about. So I think and how he really tried to keep that front and center at everything that he did after those experiences. And I think that's the thing that probably keep kind of keeps me going the most and hopefully kind of keeps me grounded in this weird place called Hollywood land.
Yeah, no surprise that Father Bud did Romero. Yeah, based on
Right,
a lot of what he
exactly,
did, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So Romero was the movie that Father Bud did. That was a Paul's Productions movie. And so, question two: you grew up in New Jersey, and
The
so
great
what
state of
exit?
New
First of
Jersey.
all, that's always the question. What exit, right? And what's your favorite Springsteen song?
All right. So, despite the stereotype, I did not grow up either off the Turnpike or off the Garden State Parkway. I grew up inland, northwestern New Jersey, which is very, I kind of call it rural suburban, but very it's when people usually say, "What? Oh, why do they call it the Garden State?" It's like, well, where I grew up, that's why, because there was farms everywhere. And there was it was kind of like it's where the Irish and Italian diaspora from Brooklyn moved after in the 70s and the 80s. So but of course, kind of being a New Jersey birthright, you have to have a favorite Springsteen song and a favorite Sinatra song and a favorite Bon Jovi song.
Oh, very nice.
But for Springsteen, I used to say Born to Run when I was younger, but I really love that song, Land of Hope and Dreams. And I
Oh,
just keep on going back to that song. And at some point I would love to enter it just needs a couple of tweaks to be a gospel song. And I was just like, I'd love to kind of put that song in a mass sometime. So I'm
oh,
gonna go with
great.
Land of Hope and Dreams.
Cool. And then question three: polarization is now at the center of your next project, a documentary on Uniparicera, and it's a huge part of the Paul's mission these days. So,
Yep.
give me one reason why you're called to take on polarization as a religious community.
I think, I mean, the Paulist history has always been bridge building. It's always, where Father Isaac Hecker, he wanted to build bridges between Catholic America and Protestant America. And in the 20th century, there was a strong effort for to build bridges with the ecumenical effort. So all these different Christian denominations, how do we, follow Jesus's admonition to become one? And of course, that also building bridges with those outside of our faith tradition, with Jews, with Muslims, nuns, the NONES. And while we haven't let go of any of those things, the issue of polarization just seems to be something that's continuing to divide families right now. And where it used to be, people used to just have friendly disagreements and that was fine, where now it's political disagreements have become kind of a blood sport, and I think that's seeped over into a lot of our relationships, a lot of our families. And one of the things we wanted to do with the Junipero Serra film is just that when we started it, it was in 2020 after George Floyd was killed. And it just seemed like everybody was going off into their usual camps and just like lobbing the usual talking points at each other, but no one was really talking with each other. So it's like, well, I was kind of interested, like, what's the Catholic angle for this story? And then the statues of Junipero Serra started coming down. It's like, that's the Catholic angle to the story, because we have some skin in the game. It's so and being from New Jersey, I really didn't know that much about them. So it's just kind of like it's just been really fascinating to sit down with Native American leaders who are not Catholic and hear their perspectives, Native American leaders who are Catholic and hear their perspectives, Catholic leaders, people who are just Californians and grew up learning one story about them, and it's been what I've found most fascinating about it is, personally, I see the, pardon the pun, but I see the Confederate statues as a little bit more of a black and white issue, where the more I get to know the story of Junipero Serra, it's like there's so many different facets to it that I just think it's a great paradigm for us to look at this larger issue of polarization, and just how can we get people talking. I've just always been more interested in the conversation rather than declaring him a saint or a sinner, because after all, we're all both. So it's just, but just seeing the conversations that have started to come through, that's probably been the most exciting thing.
And he's like one of the founders of California, right? Like,
he was the Franciscan who founded the most major missions that became cities such as San Francisco, San Diego, Santa Barbara. Like, so it's kind of like you go down the map of California, and there's the missions. So many of the missions are where the cities were formed. But at the same time, what many Native Americans would say is like, why are we celebrating somebody who was part of a system that was taking our land from us? And Catholics would say, well, he was trying to spread the faith. He wasn't trying to take the land, but he was so embedded within the Spanish colonial effort, but at the same time was defending Native Americans within that effort, and against the abuses. And in many ways, it was like the only thing standing between, one of the few people standing between Native Americans and Spanish soldiers. So it's a very complex story, and that's just what's been really it's been really just fascinating to kind of dive into it.
Yeah. Speaking of complicated stories, as someone who works in production, let's talk a little bit about artificial intelligence.
Sure.
And so question 4, AI, is it a good tool or is it eventually our replacement?
I never thought The Matrix would become a documentary in my lifetime. I'm probably a little bit more pessimistic about it. I hate to say this. It's like, at least from a writing standpoint, because that's one of the big reasons why writers are on strike, is they're like, oh, wait a minute. And people will say, writers might say, will AI be able to write the next Gone with the Wind, or and the answer is no. It could never write that. Could it write a Hallmark Christmas movie? Totally. Which could it write a Law and Order episode that is literally a formula? Yes, it could. And I think that's where I think it can be a helpful tool. And I think one of the interesting things about it is that it's, for a long time, we've been concerned that technology is going to be has been replacing blue collar workers. Where AI, it's like, oh, AI might replace white collar workers too. So I actually, where my thinking is going with AI is hopefully it can't celebrate mass, but seriously, I wonder, like, what is working gonna look like? If machines replace all jobs, what's employment going to look like? And yeah, I think there are questions in the and it's not quite at the point where you don't need humans, but the scary thing is it keeps on learning. So I think there's reasons for optimism that I'm trying to hold on to, but I also see big reasons for concern.
Sure. And so you know, reasons for concern. Question 5: if there were a zombie apocalypse, who are three saints or holy people that you'd want fighting on your side against the zombies?
Let me see. I think well, Joan of Arc, because she was a warrior. So I think that's a good, if you have to go from the saint, that would be good. I think Saint Francis, because maybe Saint Francis could see the humanity. And but I think the one I'd really want is Lazarus, because Lazarus was raised from the dead, so he's also kind of a zombie, and maybe he can talk to the other zombies and tell them what a good guy I am and not to eat my brains. So those are my 3 answers.
St. Francis would be like the wolf of Gubbio a little bit. Look, if they feed you, you just stop eating them,
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be great. Well, Father Tom, once again, hey, by the way, how many times have you said it? Emmy Award nominee, Father Tom Gibbons.
uh, Some people were joking. It's like, that's how I'm going to introduce myself at mass. But I'm like, no. I'm trying. So, I mean, it is kind of weird to be kind of like in that, like, it's what I mean. We're working on the film during the pandemic, and I was just like, oh, I just hope that it got on some sort of national distribution, and it's. We're looking to have it on national. We're planning on having it on national PBS this holiday season or around that time. It was on the regional Southern California PBS, which is why we got nominated for the regional Emmy. So, but we're really excited to bring it to a national audience this winter. But there's also going to be a virtual streaming opportunity in partnership with Catholic Relief Services, probably September or October. So there'll be more news around that.
Cool, very nice. So congratulations again. He's Father Tom Gibbons. I am Mike Hayes. This has been 5 Questions with the Paulists. We'll see you all again later.